CNN poet laureate Chris Cuomo is wise in many ways, in the ways of an Eastern mystic. But today he confessed that he can't figure out why people seem to think the left wants to ban guns.
You got the President of the United States this morning tweeting that the Second Amendment will never be repealed. We must have more Who's calling for a repeal of the Second Amendment? Who's calling for it?
Who's calling for it? I don't know. How about former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens, who just wrote a New York Times piece like 24 hours ago with the hard-to-interpret title, Repeal the Second Amendment. New York Times opinion writer Bret Stephens agrees.
You are not going to get a handle on the problem of America's gun culture while there is a constitutional right to own a weapon. Most of the gun crime, by the way, in the country isn't done with AR-15s or the assault weapons that I suspect both of us would like to see banned. They're done with handguns. Until you at least address that constitutional principle that there is a right to bear an arm, you will not deal with the problem that we have.
Even 2 years ago, Rolling Stone magazine called for repealing the Second Amendment. This is totally real. It's not a fever dream, unfortunately. Dan Bongino is an NRA TV spokesman, a former Secret Service agent, and he joins us tonight. So, Dan, as you know, Democratic Party strategists are concerned about saying any of this out loud because they don't want to scare conservatives into voting in the midterms. But I think it's kind of out in the open now. This is not a conspiracy theory. This really is the agenda. What do you make of it?
Well, Tucker, a couple things here. Number one, let me tell you something, Democrats. If you're going to go for repeal of the Second Amendment, you know what? Go for it. Good luck. Because in the 1994 midterms, after the Clinton, quote, assault weapons ban, we still can't really figure out what an assault weapon is, by the way, because liberals change the definition if they even have one every day. The Democrats lost, Tucker, 53 seats in rural portions of America.
Yeah.
So good luck with that. Knock yourselves out, folks, on that one. But here's the problem I see, Tucker. You know, I read an interesting op-ed piece today, and I'm getting a lot of feedback from my audience on this issue as well. The problem with liberals like Chris Cuomo and others is they don't understand us, Tucker. You know, liberalism's easy to understand, Tucker. It's everywhere. It's on TV. It's in the media. It's in academia. We're surrounded by it. It's the de facto default set normal position for society. To actually understand conservatives and why gun owners would want to own a gun to defend themselves and their families, you have to do some darn hard work. You have to go to Kentucky and go to some areas of Florida outside of Miami and talk to people. And liberals have zero interest in doing that, and that's why they'll never understand American gun owners.
Well, they're not really calling for the abolition of guns. What they're calling for is a transfer of firearms from the country to the ruling class. They're saying only we should have guns. I mean, no one is seriously saying that the bodyguards who protect the cable hosts you just saw should be disarmed. They're just saying everyone else should be. It's a power transfer.
It's absolutely a power transfer. And, you know, one of the things that's frequently cited with the founders is their obvious fight against the king, the monarchy, and against tyranny, which led to the Second Amendment. But another thing, if you read a lot of the Federalist Papers, Tucker, is you can sense a theme in here of what they wanted was they wanted a sense of individuality. They didn't want the people to have to depend exclusively, to be surgically attached to the government for the one thing that matters more than anything, Tucker: safety and security. They didn't want that. They wanted people to have an independent spirit. And this is what I believe, not all Democrats, because some are just naive and are just, frankly, being useful idiots on this, but the radical left entirely understands that this isn't about guns, it's about power. It's about removing that symbol of individuality, removing financial power, the power over your own security from people's lives. This is bigger than just firearms, and I wish people on our side, you know, these so-called moderate Republicans, would get hip to this quick, that this is a bigger agenda for the radical left.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of appreciate the radical left for being honest about its aims. What I'm shocked by is the willingness of people in the media to become handmaidens to entrenched power. They're supposed to be challenging entrenched power, but instead they're its foot soldiers, which is terrifying. Dan, thank you. Thanks for putting that in perspective for us.
Yes, sir. See you soon.